The undisputed strength of the European Union include two things. The international community is unbeatable in its ability to objectify problems and deal with them in regulated procedures. They are provided with dashes, brackets and decision documents and can ultimately be ground down by a fabulous compromise machine. Second, the international community is wealthy, which allows a certain amount of generosity. Consensus can therefore be bought as long as the end result is right for everyone. Just in time for the end of the German Council Presidency, however, two long-term problems for the EU, such as gases in a dangerous chemical arrangement, are intensifying. The matter is explosive. These long-term problems may have been neglected under the constant fire of the Trump presidency and in the pandemic stress, but the opposite is plausible. Corona and the throbbing pulse of Trumpism are now affecting the capabilities of the EU. This time they can no longer respond with money and many words. The budget blockade of Hungary and Poland on the one hand and Brexit on the other hand are no longer technical problems that can be negotiated in the tried and tested manner on a summit night. Europe faces a fundamental ideological contradiction around the question: how sovereign can a state remain in the community of 27? How much surrender of sovereignty does the economic connection already force? Sovereignty is not a new subject for the EU. However, just in time for the end of the German Council Presidency, the moment has come to force a declaration of sovereignty. And I do not mean this full sovereignty ghost that's always coming around Brexit. We are talking about what sovereignty you need, what sovereignty you can keep if you want to deal with the whole world, not just the EU. No one can keep his full sovereignty and deal with the world in a proper way. That doesn't work. But it's a matter about the amount and how far are you willing to go. And it's not about losing sovereignty. I just want to stress this because it's coming up all over and over again with Brexit. It has to deal with how much is healthy and how much sovereignty is healthy. Ironically, it was the German Constitutional Court that gave the Federal Republic, as a model student in the matter of renouncing sovereignty, a foretaste earlier this year on the subject of monetary policy and the ECB. That court ruling is an issue because they got involved in an area where Parliament and not the judiciary has the authority to act. So it's one example, but not a very good one, I must say, on this point. But it points to a bigger problem, although the German court wasn't really in charge for this one. Now the problems are wider and could result in a painful break. The veto of Poland and Hungary on the budget and the related rule of law mechanism is ideologically justified. And just to emphasize this, the topic I'm dealing with today, in the way I'm dealing with today, has to do with Brexit. That's why I do this on this channel. I won't go into the details how in the end they will deal with Poland and Hungary in this situation. That already happened and will continue to happen on my channel about European news and politics. That's where it belongs. But in this case, in the way I'm talking about this today, it has to do with Brexit as well, so I'm talking about this here. But all other issues with the Hungary-Poland stuff will happen on my channel about European news and politics. If you want to see something about that, you'll have to go there. Because people are always asking again when I'm doing this on this channel. I won't. The right-wing national governments have understood that the attack on their sovereignty can also mean the end of their populist nationalist power doctrine. And there we are once again at the thing. What is sovereignty? If they agreed to the rule of law mechanisms, they signed their own death warrant. The British are a few steps further in the desire for more sovereignty, but here too the issue is coming back with a vengeance. Wherever two trading powers converge, they have to agree on rules, their verifiability, judicial authorities, and sanctioning tools. However, because the European regulatory framework is extremely dense and intertwined, Great Britain cannot easily break away from it. And vice versa, the EU is not an orphan when it comes to its own advantages that are created with the help of subsidies or taxes. So when British and Europeans negotiate rules and their exceptions, supplicants and demanders meet at the same time. The ideological ballast now dominates the rule of law in Brexit, because the adversaries have recognized their destructive power. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban and Poland's Prime Minister Mateusz Morawiecki have stylized their resistance to the rule of law mechanism as a national cause and a kind of religious issue. And that should sound very familiar to you. The transition to martyrdom is fluid, and many Brexiteers whose comments I read in the past under my videos already fell for that too. Under the impression of Donald Trump's defeat, they are fighting for their survival and for the character of Europe. The far-reaching liberality in the West, and especially in Germany, frightens them. Their image of society is incompatible with it. During Brexit, Prime Minister Boris Johnson recognized his leverage when it comes to fishing rights. If he denies EU fishing fleet access to British waters, it is not only the French and Belgian fishermen who are threatened. The symbolic power of this profession in particular is causing the French government to sleep, because the re-election of President Emmanuel Macron in just over a year could be seriously jeopardized in the event of a hard Brexit and mutinous Breton fishermen. Marine Le Pen, or even more explosively, Macron's former prime minister, the current mayor of Le Havre, Édouard Philippe, are just waiting for their opportunity. Money and sovereignty are the chambers of the heart of the EU. Without structural funds, without internal market, without agricultural aid, without Corona reconstruction money, no EU. The budget is the Union's only relevant instrument of power. And so much about those, I don't even know how to entitle them anymore, always insulting group of Brexiteers, which is meanwhile getting blocked on this channel because I've got enough of it, about the European Union dictatorship, unelected bureaucrat power. No, they have no power but this one, and they don't even decide on that one, because that's what the European Council does and the European Parliament. The Commission will not decide on that one, and that's the strongest power in the EU. That means 27 heads of state and government, an elected EU Parliament, 27 national parliaments and some regional parliaments. They will in the end decide on this budget. And if necessary, I talked about this in another video, in case of this budget and the Corona Reconstruction Fund, maybe 25 national parliaments. A change in the principle of unanimity in the supreme discipline shakes the entire statics. Without the budget and, above all, without the Corona aid linked to it, the EU is corroding at all ends. Sovereignty, and above all its surrender, is the design idea of the EU. 27 states forego rights in order to become more powerful together and to protect one another from nationalist attacks. They have only brought ruin to the continent in its history. The double European crisis at the end of the German presidency and at the end of Angela Merkel's chancellorship turns into a real test of survival. It is up to the populists and nationalists to seriously damage the European idea. The integrationists have to decide which unreasonable demands they can still bear. The usual ideas of a core Europe, a new foundation, or a controlled shrinkage are already rampant. And to be honest, I have some sympathies for restarting what we call in Germany the European Union of the willing, just of those countries who really are serious about the European idea. It would be a bitter end to the Trump nightmare if Europe had to pay the price of populist nationalism. And if you want to stay informed, please subscribe to my channel. I'll see you in my next video. Viel Spaß!